The manhwa opens with a formal inquiry regarding whether her contribution to the creation of the elixir of life and achievement said to grant freedom from both aging and death has finally been officially recognized. She stands as the Empire's greatest physician, and Bia feels a surge of satisfaction at this long-awaited acknowledgement. After enduring countless struggles, scraping and clawing her way up from nothing, she now stands at the pinnacle of success. In her mind, she bids farewell to the humiliating days of living like a beaten dog. The Emperor assumes that she has brought the elixir with her, and Bia confidently confirms that she has. Around her, the nobles murmur, some suggesting that it should be considered an honor for someone of her lineage to have her medicine used by the most exalted members of society. Others, however, scoff at the very mention of lineage, mocking her as nothing more than a lowly commoner from the East. Rumors circulate that she abandoned her family and that her household has since fallen into complete ruin. Hearing this, Bia dismisses their words internally, recognizing their prejudice but refusing to be shaken. To her, their chatter is meaningless. All that matters is obtaining the imperial treasure she seeks. The Emperor acknowledges that she had previously mentioned a wish she wanted granted in exchange for offering the elixir. Bia affirms this, expecting her long-awaited reward. However, the Emperor expresses regret, stating that he does not believe he can fulfill her request. Confusion begins to set in, but before she can react, a figure from behind suddenly draws a sword and strikes her. The attack is swift and unexpected, sending her collapsing to the ground. As she lies there, the Emperor reflects that he cannot rid himself of the anxiety that would come from leaving her alive. If she were to survive, there would be nothing preventing her from creating the elixir for others. Bia realizes in that moment that she has let her guard down. Desperate, she attempts to seek treatment, but the Emperor makes it clear that her promises would hold no value to him. He has no desire for immortals other than himself, and therefore, her death is necessary. The surrounding nobles react with cruel amusement. They point out that she should not even attempt to search for water, fully aware that her healing abilities depend on access to a clean water source. From the very moment she began speaking of her wish, they had already anticipated this outcome. To them, even the greatest physician is powerless when faced with a sudden betrayal. They mock her further, claiming she simply failed to understand her place. Despite her dire condition, Bia retains her sharp tongue. She directs a final remark toward the Emperor, reminding him of a certain private commission he had entrusted to her aid treatment for his hair loss. The implication strikes a nerve, exposing a vulnerability he desperately tries to conceal. As outrage erupts, she internally mocks him further, convinced that his future baldness is inevitable. Even in the face of death, she refuses to yield her pride. At the same time, she reveals another calculated move. She had secretly met with representatives from 3 other kingdoms, all of whom showed keen interest in the elixir after she announced her intention to present it. The implications of this revelation ignite the Emperor's anger, as the political consequences suddenly become unpredictable and dangerous. His fury intensifies, but Bia can already feel her strength fading. As her life slips away, she reflects on her journey. She had believed that becoming a genius capable of astonishing the world would change everything. Yet in the end, she realizes that she could not succeed alone. If she had possessed allies, people to stand by her side and watch her back, perhaps the outcome would have been different. This life, she concludes, is a complete failure. With her final thoughts, she bids farewell to everyone present, wishing ruin upon them all. In a final twist, she reveals that the elixir she presented was nothing more than a fake. Immediately after, time rewinds. Bia awakens once more, finding herself alive again. Frustration overwhelms her as she realizes that this attempt has also ended in failure. The cycle continues, and she is forced to endure yet another 20 years of life. This entire situation exists because Bia has possessed a character within her friend's favorite novel. Her friend, who has always been completely obsessed with childcare stories, used to talk endlessly about this particular book, never growing tired of praising it. Then, without warning, Bia awakens inside that very novel. The absurdity of it leaves her deeply frustrated, as she cannot understand why she was chosen instead of her friend. The title of the Eastern fantasy childcare novel is The Baby Pharmacist is a Great Cook Too. It tells the story of the protagonist, Irene, a gifted girl who uses her extraordinary talent for creating medicinal cookies to heal others and win their hearts. Through her genius, she helps countless people and eventually succeeds in curing her father's terminal illness. However, there is a hidden truth behind Irene's power, one that Bia never gets the chance to fully recall, as her thoughts are abruptly interrupted. A voice clears its throat, demanding attention and pulling her back to reality. Everyone is instructed to focus, and Bia feels an overwhelming sense of irritation. This is now the 4th time she has gone through this exact moment, and she is thoroughly sick of repeating it. She is willing to excuse the first occurrence, since that was when she was initially born into this world after transmigrating, but she cannot comprehend why she continues to regress to this same age every time she dies. The teacher announces that all of them have been gathered to determine whether they can wield the family's power. Those who display exceptional talent will be granted the privileges of the main house. Before the test begins, however, the teacher insists on delivering a brief history lesson. The continent they inhabit is divided primarily between the East and the West. The East reveres the sky, wind, nature, and water, while the West worships the earth, fire, and ancestral spirits. The ancestors of the great Hyuk family originated from the East, a land said to be protected by dragons. These ancestors crossed into the West, bringing with them their mysterious abilities. Those descended from the East possess powers connected to nature, granted through the blessings of dragons. These abilities manifest in various forms, including control over water, wind, lightning, and plants. Among them, the most extraordinary power is the rare ability to heal. The first head of the family, Hyukawa, used this healing power to save an emperor who was suffering from a deadly plague. As a result of this act, the family was granted noble status within the empire. From that moment onward, they established themselves as a prestigious lineage of apothecaries and physicians. The teacher presents this as a proud and honorable history, though Bia internally dismisses it as nothing more than repetitive indoctrination disguised as education. The test finally begins. The teacher instructs everyone to focus on the object placed before them, whether it be a cup of water, a fan, or any other item that resonates with them. These objects are to be used in treating the patients assigned to each child. The patients, however, are not volunteers but individuals brought in from the slums. Fear quickly spreads among the children. Some begin to cry, overwhelmed by the situation and pleading to go home, describing the entire experience as terrifying. Amid the chaos, Bia is approached and guided toward a patient. As she observes the individual assigned to her, she immediately notices the severity of the condition. The patient is suffering immensely, with severe bedsores and a stench of festering wounds filling the air. The sight is disturbing, and the cruelty of the situation becomes painfully clear. Critically ill people have been handed over to children, all for the sake of identifying talent. Neither the children nor the patients deserve such treatment. Bia reflects bitterly on the family, recalling how she ultimately lost every single one of them in her previous attempts. As she remains standing, the attendant beside her urges her to sit, concerned for her condition. However, Bia refuses. She insists that she must complete the test. When questioned, she simply repeats that she intends to finish it quickly. In that moment, the atmosphere shifts. The water around her begins to respond, flowing unnaturally as if drawn by an unseen force. Her power manifests with unmistakable clarity. She is Bia, the cousin of the original protagonist, once known as the hidden genius of the family and a master apothecary. To describe Bia in her friend's words, she is a child without outstanding abilities or remarkable beauty, and she is so frail that she dies early, likened to a delicate butterfly. However, when she is first thrust into this body, she is confident that she will survive. The reason behind this confidence is clear. She is someone who knows everything about the novel from beginning to end. Despite this advantage, she meets a spectacular death in all 3 of her lives. In her first life, she demonstrates her genius faster than anyone else, yet without any support or backing, she is treated like a slave by her family. Her brilliance becomes a burden rather than a blessing, and she ultimately dies after being caught in a chaotic patient rampage. In her second life, she comes to understand that too much of anything can be poisonous. Determined to avoid her previous fate, she hides her genius and lives diligently and quietly. However, even this cautious approach does not save her, as she dies after falling off a cliff while attempting to stop a delirious patient from walking off it. By her third life, she can no longer endure the cycle. She abandons any intention of following the original story, deciding that she no longer needs her wretched family. She learns of a treasure within the imperial palace that grants wishes, and she resolves to claim it in order to return to her original world. With unwavering determination, she succeeds in becoming the empire's greatest physician. Yet, even at the peak of her success, she meets her end once again, this time because of the crown. Through all these experiences, she realizes a harsh truth. No matter how many Eastern immigrants exist within the empire, there is a deep-seated hatred and discrimination against them that is firmly ingrained in society. It is not something she can overcome alone. She comes to understand that she needs her own power base, specifically the strength of her family, the great family she once despised. With her accumulated knowledge, she already recognizes the illness afflicting the patients before her. It is the epidemic fever, something she has encountered 4 times now, making diagnosis unnecessary. She prepares the medicine with precision, using a mixture of a specific root and dried herbs. Once the medicine is completed and administered, its effects are immediate and remarkable. The patients are healed, their wounds closing, and their fevers returning to normal. Having accomplished her task, Bia considers the matter concluded and prepares to leave. Even when she is called back, she continues walking away, maintaining an air of calm indifference, almost like a cool and untouchable figure. The scene then shifts, showing her walking down a vast hallway. She reflects on the sheer enormity of the place, realizing that the mansion is so immense it feels like an entire town. Navigating such a place proves difficult in her small and fragile body. Her thoughts drift to her family's structure. Her grandmother, who is also the current head of the family, had 5 sons and 3 daughters. However, tragedy has reduced their numbers. 1 daughter and 1 son have passed away, and another son has gone missing. As a result, only 3 sons and 2 daughters remain, forming the current state of the once great household. The remaining 3 sons have also contracted an incurable disease and are confined to the east wing of the mansion. Among these ailing sons, one is her father, and another is the father of the female lead, Ian. Once, all 3 sons were renowned as great warriors, figures of strength and honor, so their current condition feels like a cruel and inevitable descent. It is as though the family itself is slowly collapsing, flowing toward ruin without resistance. Because of this decline, the family grows desperate. It needs a genius, someone capable of restoring its former glory and leading it out of decay. That desperation is the reason behind the regular tests they conduct, gathering everyone from branch family members and illegitimate children to even those like Bia, children who live in confinement. However, no matter how much talent one displays during these examinations, it remains nearly impossible to catch the attention of the family head. This is not due to a lack of brilliance, but because her aunts control everything from behind the scenes, subtly manipulating outcomes. They secretly block information and suppress any potential rivals who might threaten the future of their own children. This is not new to Bia. The same pattern unfolds in her previous lives as well. Knowing this, she decides there is no need to struggle along the same difficult path again. Instead, she resolves to follow the flow of the original story once more. However, Ian is only 2 years old at present, far too young to be of any help. That leaves Bia with no choice but to prepare the path ahead on her own. Her plan forms with clarity. She intends to remove a few obstacles from the protagonist's future, to metaphorically scatter flowers along her path, and to elevate her to the position of family heir as quickly as possible. By doing so, she believes she will eventually gain another opportunity to enter the imperial palace alongside her. At that moment, she will seize the treasure and finally return to her original world. But before any of that can happen, she must first find a certain person. As she moves through the mansion, deep in thought, she suddenly trips over something and falls to the ground. Regaining her senses, she notices a man lying motionless on the floor. In that instant, she realizes that she has finally found him, the youngest of the 3 brothers confined in the East Wing, the father of the protagonist, and her uncle, Sam. She studies him for a moment before attempting to rouse him, persistently trying to wake him. Yet no matter what she does, he does not respond in the slightest. It quickly becomes apparent that his condition is far more severe than she initially assumed. The reason her uncle lies asleep in the middle of the hallway is not because he finds comfort in such a place. Rather, his illness is so overwhelming that it renders normal daily life impossible. He suffers from narcolepsy and sleepwalking, conditions that seize control of his body without warning. As Bia observes him, she understands one thing with certainty: this man is her first patient, and his illness is considered incurable. Severe narcolepsy and sleepwalking plague the man to such an extent that ordinary daily life has become completely impossible. This is the incurable illness afflicting Bia's very first patient. Yet, even after striking him with considerable force, there is not the slightest reaction from him. Instead, she is the one who ends up feeling pain. Her palm throbs far more than he does, making her wonder if his body is made of steel. Realizing that brute force will not work, she decides to begin proper treatment. Pouring out some water, she prepares to use her first ability. Through this power, she can heal using water, though it must be exceptionally pure. She is able to restore herself in this manner, but unfortunately, no one else can benefit from it. That limitation, however, is precisely why she possesses a second ability. Even so, the immediate problem remains unchanged: how to wake her uncle. He shows no signs of regaining consciousness, and it is clear that he will not awaken easily. Despite this, Bia refuses to back down. This is already her fourth life, and she cannot afford to waste even a single day. To her, this is the final chance she has been given. Determined, she begins striking him again, attempting to force him awake. Yet even this effort proves ineffective. Just as she prepares to try something else, her uncle suddenly reacts. He grabs her hand effortlessly and lifts her into the air. It is his first time experiencing what seems like an assassination attempt, and he demands to know her identity. Bia recalls what her friend once said about him, that he is like a prince, a figure as terrifying as he is powerful. Back in the present moment, her uncle's killing intent becomes overwhelming, and he questions whether she has a death wish. His grip tightens, making it impossible for her to breathe. Struggling for air, she manages to call him uncle. The word halts him for a brief moment, though he immediately dismisses it as nonsense. She insists, and when she refers to him in a way that suggests familial recognition, he begins to question her claim more seriously. The possibility that she might truly be his second brother's daughter crosses his mind. Finally, he releases her. Freed from his grasp, Bia collapses into a fit of coughing, desperately trying to regain her breath. Despite everything that has just occurred, one fact remains striking: she is only 3 years old. He treats her with such coldness that Bia cannot help but feel her resentment toward this novel deepen even further by at least 20%. The situation feels utterly absurd to her. Then, as he studies her more closely, he questions whether she is baby Bia. The name catches her off guard, leaving her momentarily unsure of how to respond. It is a nickname her friend used as well, and now hearing it from her uncle only adds to her confusion. She wonders if it has something to do with butterflies, or perhaps a meaning she was never told, something that has remained unknown to her all these years. Choosing not to dwell on it, she approaches him again and casually questions why he is sleeping alone in the hallway. The inquiry clearly unsettles him, and a hint of tension flickers across his expression. In response, he hastily fabricates an excuse, claiming that the weather is simply too pleasant. However, it is painfully obvious to Bia that he is lying. He cannot even maintain proper meals due to his severe narcolepsy, and his worsening sleepwalking has driven him to isolate himself. He has already sent his own daughter away to the West Wing while confining himself to the East Wing. Unlike the West Wing, where one of the afflicted men has already died and another has someone to manage his affairs, the East Wing stands abandoned, a place reserved only for those in confinement. It is where the 3 sons of the family, all suffering from incurable illnesses, have been gathered. Alongside them are Bia herself and one of her older cousins. Of the 3 sons burdened with these relentless conditions, only one will eventually be cured, and that will not happen until 10 years later. Her father and another will die before that time ever arrives. 10 years may seem distant, but to Bia, that is precisely the problem. She cannot afford to wait that long. If she is to change anything, she must act immediately. Her goal is clear: she needs to obtain the Imperial treasure as soon as possible. And to do that, she decides that cooperation is necessary. People with aligned interests must work together, and her uncle is the most suitable ally. With that in mind, she asks him to listen carefully. She tells him that she is about to reveal a secret meant only for him, that she is, in fact, a genius. He reacts with irritation, dismissing her claim as childish nonsense and suggesting she take such talk elsewhere. But Bia remains unwavering. She insists that she can even cure his illness. This declaration catches his attention. He questions her sharply, asking what exactly she has just said. Without hesitation, she repeats herself with confidence, stating that she can cure the very illness no one else has been able to treat. It is the kind of claim only a true genius could make. Yet his expression betrays his thoughts. He looks at her as though she is simply another patient, someone delusional. Bia cannot entirely blame him. He must have encountered countless doctors and alchemists making similar promises, only to fail. Still, she recognizes that dismissing her so quickly would be a mistake. Calmly, she tells him that he will understand once he experiences it for himself. And with that, she begins to use her healing ability once more. Her uncle watches in complete confusion, unable to comprehend what is unfolding before him. Meanwhile, Bia prepares to demonstrate her second ability, the very power that once allowed her to become the greatest physician in the Empire during her third life. Her uncle tries to say something to her while she shouts at him not to talk while she is diagnosing him. Has he not done this ever before? He should be used to water, uncle, since he is a water user himself. but he questions what nonsense she is talking about. Just at that time, he notices a bruise. Come to think of it, when he woke up earlier, he did not even hold back his strength, thinking she was an assassin. That tiny brat, she endured that without even letting out a scream. She notices that this is truly awful. Just how many medicines does she need to give him? Her second ability is the ability to diagnose a patient and create medicine through water. If it is a disease she has already treated before, she can make the medicine on the spot, just like during the exam, as long as she has the ingredients. And if it is a disease she does not know, she can find out the necessary ingredients and the formula through a diagnosis like this. After going through all sorts of hardships in her third life, she has gained a massive database. In short, it means she can treat most illnesses on the spot. But her uncle's illness, it was not for nothing that it was called an incurable disease, or a curse in the original story. To think he needs more medicine than someone with a terminal illness. Fortunately, the starting medicine is simple. As long as she is given time and ingredients, she will be able to treat him. Finally, the diagnosis is complete, and he questions what the hell this is. She states that it is about his illness, but he shouts that he is not going to listen. She continues, saying that while she is trying to make him better, it is strange to simply fall asleep like that anyway. He tries to tell her that he simply sleeps a lot and that it is not an illness. If she has that kind of ability, she should get lost and go to the main building instead of hanging around here. But she can see that he is such a stubborn patient and questions why he keeps denying it when he is sick. He sighs and asks whether she knows how many pharmacists and physicians he has seen so far. Every single one of them who came to him was the same. They arrived with confident faces and left without being able to do anything. Fine, he understands that he is a patient, but he has absolutely no intention of listening to her diagnosis. He wants to stop hearing that this cursed disease cannot be cured. She is a little heated and scared, yet she tells him that he will regret it if he does not listen. He is extremely pissed that this brat is such a real piece of work and declares that he is not going to listen. She responds that fine, if he has decided, then he should not listen. It would have been nice if he had become her ally right away, but she did not succeed on the first try either. Her uncle has become sensitive because of his long illness. She decides that she will be satisfied with seeing his face and heading back for today. So she tells him that she will see him next time. He tells her that she should go to her father and that he will go to his second brother and tattle about what she did. With that, he leaves. She counts down to 3, 2, and 1, and he falls down again. She cannot believe it. Did her friend really call a guy like this a sleeping beauty? Sleeping beauty, her foot. He is just a pain in the neck uncle, and this bruise, she wonders whether she should leave it alone for a little longer. The scene cuts to her uncle when he wakes up. Instead of feeling refreshed, he is flooded with irritation and boredom. He wonders how much time has passed this time. Exactly how did he fall asleep? His body, which received the dragon's blessing and is several times stronger than that of a normal person, does not die when he falls asleep without consuming food, but that is all there is to it. His time is thrown away like trash. The small movements of daily life, time spent with friends, and even the time to love his one and only daughter, Ryan, who was just an infant then, she should be able to call him dad by now. But again, Bia is seen shouting at him to wake up, warning that his mouth will get crooked if he sleeps here. He gets up, extremely pissed at this brat. Seriously. While Bia is glad that he is finally awake, he shouts, demanding to know how she finds her way to these corners every time. But who is going to tell him that she has lived here for years? Does he think she would not be able to find one uncle? This makes the uncle even more pissed. Even his oldest brother does not dare to mess with him when he is sleeping, yet that tiny little thing has been doing this every single day without fail for days. If it were not for his second brother, he would have, but then again, he remembers his second brother telling him that it is not his fault. And that bruise, he notices it is still there. He becomes even more annoyed. She calls herself a healer, yet she cannot even treat her own hand. So he finally asks her what she wants. She steps forward and takes out a bottle, telling him that she is the one who made this medicine and asking him to please take it. Her uncle questions whether she is truly serious, and she responds by warning him to drink the concoction brewed from an unlicensed apple of the Capri, made without any formal training. She insists that he should simply try it. Still, he cannot help but wonder if she is attempting to poison him. In return, she challenges his suspicion, asking why if she claims it is safe he would doubt her enough to refuse drinking it. Her uncle then remarks, half in jest, that life is not worth living anyway, so if he dies, it would hardly matter. He is clearly joking, because there is no reason for him to die when he has a daughter as precious as a rabbit. In response, Bia tells him that dying is far easier than he thinks, and he should not toss around such words so carelessly. After all, they come from a family of healers. She recalls that his first symptoms appeared 12 years ago, beginning with his sudden collapse during a gathering at the main house. Recently, his condition has worsened. Once he falls asleep, he remains unconscious for 3 to 5 days at a time. Meanwhile, he is only awake briefly, barely long enough to sustain himself, and the symptoms will only continue to worsen, especially if he keeps skipping meals. The progression will accelerate, and that is her diagnosis. Because of this, she urges him once more to drink the medicine, emphasizing that he has absolutely nothing to lose. She understands that he is wary, having dealt with nothing but incompetent doctors until now, but she insists that she is different. She assures him that he can trust her and claims that she is skilled in this field. Her confidence stirs a sense of déjà vu in him, reminding him of someone else who once told him to trust her and claimed her treatments were the best. After thinking for a while, her uncle finally asks her to give him the medicine. This surprises Bia, as she had expected him to resist again. He states that he will drink it, but only if she promises to stop pestering him afterward. At last, he drinks it, and she feels a sense of relief. There is an abandoned herb garden in the east wing, and thanks to it, she was able to prepare the brew in advance. However, the moment he finishes drinking, he shouts in protest, demanding to know why it tastes the way it does and what she even put into it. She remains unfazed, pleased that he finished every last drop, and casually asks whether he would like a candy. He continues to complain, telling her to forget it and demanding that she be honest. Was she actually trying to poison him? Bia dismisses his reaction, explaining that even a dragon-pressing poison would not affect him like it would a normal person, and tells him to stop acting like a baby. She adds that good medicine is supposed to taste unpleasant. With that, she turns to leave, bidding him goodbye, while he continues to shout after her, demanding that she come back and explain herself. The next day, she returns, and the day after that, and the day after that. Each time, he continues to drink the medicine. Once again, she asks whether he wants a candy, and once again, he declines. With each visit, she simply tells him that she will see him tomorrow and leaves. As she walks away, he begins to notice something peculiar. What exactly is she trying to accomplish? Usually, when children ask adults for favors, it is to play with them or to be tucked into bed. Yet Bia shows no interest in anything of the sort. Instead, her focus remains solely on one thing: making sure he drinks the medicine. She also never mentions a single word about her father. Then again, it is not as though his second brother would have been capable of raising her properly in that condition. He sighs and decides to forget it. He already has more than enough of his own problems to deal with. Still, the image of the bruises on her tiny wrists lingers in his mind, not even half faded yet. He cannot even sleep properly, and her constant presence only adds to his irritation. Then, all at once, he realizes something unsettling: he cannot sleep. Thinking about it more carefully, he wonders just how much time has passed. Has he even been awake for more than 2 hours at a time lately? He distinctly remembers that it was 2 p.m. when he opened his eyes today, and now it is already 5 p.m. The realization makes him tremble. In a burst of agitation, he shouts after her, calling her a damned brat. As Bia is leaving, she pauses and looks back, wondering what that was. For a brief moment, she feels something strange and questions whether it was simply her imagination. As she continues on her way, her thoughts shift. It is difficult to find enough ingredients in the East Garden alone. Although they are a family of healers and herb patches are scattered all over the East Wing, they have been abandoned for so long that they are completely overgrown and unmanaged. She can barely manage to prepare the second dose with what remains, but after that, she will need to go to the market for supplies. Beyond the estate walls lies one of the top 300 markets in the empire, but she cannot leave the mansion without a guardian. She wonders whether her uncle would actually accompany her. His waking time seems to have increased for now, but she is uncertain whether he is in any condition to walk through a busy market. Still, it should be about time for him to start noticing the effects of the medicine. Just then, she notices someone running toward her. It is her uncle, shouting her name. Panic surges through her, and she feels completely cornered and worried. She knows, with absolute certainty, that if he catches her, she is dead. The two of them continue to run. As they move, an uncle suddenly shouts at her, questioning why she is running away. She explains that it is because he has been chasing her like a maniac. He immediately denies this, insisting that he is not chasing her at all. However, just as he comes directly in front of her, she realizes that they are about to crash into each other. Before the collision can happen, he swiftly reaches out, lifts her up, and prevents the impact. With clear satisfaction, he happily remarks on how he has managed to catch her safe and sound this time. She continues to cough, struggling to steady her breathing, and he begins to wonder what has happened now. He questions whether she is alright, noticing how suddenly she had run and how breathless she has become. After all, her body has never been particularly healthy. She brushes it aside, telling him not to worry about that, and instead questions why he suddenly came looking for her. He smiles and brings up what she had fed him earlier, prompting her to realize that he has finally noticed her medicine. This realization fills her with satisfaction. At last, she has earned his trust, the trust of none other than the protagonist's father. To her, this is a massive gain, a significant boost to her combat power. With this development, she believes that everything from here on will proceed smoothly. She prepares to speak, intending to remind him to listen carefully to what she has to say. However, before she can even begin, he suddenly blacks out and starts to fall asleep. She can hardly believe it, thinking that he must be joking. Yet the reality is undeniable. He has truly fallen asleep at this critical moment. Just as they were finally making progress, he collapses into unconsciousness. Her scream soon echoes throughout the entire East Wing. It is often said that when someone is unlucky, they might even break their nose simply by falling backward. Given such circumstances, she cannot help but feel frustrated, wondering why he had to fall asleep now of all times. With things having come to this point, she realizes she has no other choice. Although she had originally intended to go together with her uncle, she now has to proceed alone. Her destination is the home of another patient residing in the East Wing, the eldest among the three confined brothers. The main hall of the West Wing is occupied by skilled physicians, pharmacists, and the various individuals who protect them. Among them are her cousins, the head of the family, her aunts, and many others, people she must eventually surpass. However, before she can face them, she understands that she must first take control of the East Wing. To accomplish this, she needs to win over the confined patient. The three brothers were once top-tier warriors, rivals who competed for first and second place within the clan before all of them fell ill. If she can persuade even two of them to join her side, her path forward will become significantly easier. Lost in these thoughts, she is suddenly bumped into by someone. She pauses, wondering if she is somehow cursed by constant misfortune. When the boy asks who she is, she looks at him closely. His spiky hair immediately stands out, and she recognizes him as Ju-won, her elder uncle's son and her cousin. She greets him and asks if he is Ju-won. Ju-won immediately questions how she knows his name. In response, she explains that they are cousins and that she came specifically to see him. However, instead of softening, he becomes slightly hostile, questioning whether she truly came to see him and why she would choose him of all people all of a sudden. Suspicion lingers in his tone, as he wonders if she has come to pick a fight, or perhaps because her own father is sick as well. As she observes him more closely, she notices the sharp glint in his eyes. It is not unfamiliar to her. Caregivers, she knows, can be just as sensitive and volatile as the patients they look after. Ju-won, in particular, has been caring for his father alone since the age of 5. That kind of burden leaves marks that are impossible to ignore. Her own father is also a patient, but she forces herself to push that thought aside. Now is not the time to dwell on it. Ju-won continues speaking, stating coldly that he has nothing to say to her and that she should simply go back. She quickly asks him to wait, pleading for just a moment of his time. However, he refuses without hesitation, saying that he is busy and does not have the time to concern himself with her or her uncle's situation. He adds that she should focus on handling her own sick father instead. His words irritate her deeply. She cannot help but think of him as a complete jerk. After all, she came here with the intention of curing his father. Still, there is nothing she can do for now. She decides that she will have to return another time. Without Ju-won or her uncle present, meeting the eldest among the confined brothers is far too dangerous. The eldest uncle is not someone she can approach carelessly. The scene shifts. From a distance, she notices someone speaking to Ju-won, remarking mockingly that he is still so devoted, continuing such useless caretaking. The voice questions whether there will ever come a time when he gives up, pointing out that his father has been in that state for far too long. She follows the gesture and recognizes the speaker. A surge of anger rises within her. It is the son of the eldest aunt. The realization hits her sharply. Of all people, she had not expected to encounter him here again. The sight of him instantly fuels her frustration, and she finds herself seething with anger. There are two paths for the children of this family: becoming doctors or pharmacists who heal people, or becoming warriors who protect them. However, even though Dewi possesses neither of these talents, he takes every opportunity available, riding on the coattails of his eldest aunt. The third regression is practically ridiculous, and Bia finds herself thinking that the regression itself is strange in many ways. To begin with, the protagonist suddenly goes missing, and the grandmother, who leads the family, dies early. The eldest aunt, who succeeds her, also dies suddenly, and eventually Dewi becomes the head of the family. Someone shouts at Bia, demanding to know whether she truly believes she will amount to anything if she abandons the family and leaves, questioning whether he is supposed to simply sit back and watch that happen. In his eyes, she is nothing but his toy. The family, led by this man, truly suffocates her at every turn. Unable to endure any longer, she even makes plans to personally destroy the family. However, in the end, the family is destroyed by someone else's hand, not hers. That person is her cousin, Juwon. Originally, Juwon is imprisoned early on for ruthlessly assaulting Dewi. Because of this, her uncle, who cannot receive proper care, dies quickly as his illness worsens. As Juwon grows and comes to regret his father's death, the protagonist comforts him, and they become allies. That is the flow of the original novel. But in the third regression, Ian goes missing, and everything goes wrong from the very beginning. At that time, Bia is also too busy trying to escape the family to care about anything else. Still, there must be a clear reason why only the third regression deviates so drastically from the original. In this life, she knows she must think about that. She notices Juwon telling Dewi to get lost before he beats him, while Dewi only mocks him, sneering at his expression and provoking him as if daring him to strike, as though he wants to see just how unhinged the son of a madman truly is. This makes Bia think that if she leaves the situation alone, it is bound to become a serious problem. If violence breaks out like that, Juwon, who has no backing, will undoubtedly be the only one punished. She cannot allow him to be sent to prison in this life as well. Before the fight can begin, she shouts at them, calling them ignorant fools as she leaps onto one of the steps, thinking that at this very moment, her future older brother's greatest savior, the sister who will become the greatest doctor under the heavens, is arriving to rescue him. She questions whether it is truly right for a group to gang up on a single person, her voice cutting through the tension. The others begin to murmur among themselves, wondering who she is. One of Dewi's companions, Brad, remarks that he recognizes her. Among the three brothers confined in the East, she is known as Lord Baiho's daughter. They recall that he had once married a woman with purple hair from the western region. This prompts Dewi to scoff, remarking that it seems there is quite a gathering of patients here today. Juwon tells Bia to leave, warning her that it is dangerous and insisting that he will handle the situation himself. However, she observes that, as expected, even if he pretends otherwise, he is kind at heart. Leaning closer, she whispers that she has a plan, instructing him that on the count of 3, he should cover his mouth and step back. She begins counting 1, 2, and at 3, she suddenly throws something toward Dewi. Confusion spreads as they question what it is. Meanwhile, Bia thinks with satisfaction that she told him to step back, and he truly did. A quick-witted assistant is indeed the best. Dewi tells his companions not to panic, claiming that the objects are nothing more than ordinary tree fruits. Bia reflects that even a rotating hearing is still a hearing, and what she has thrown are fruits commonly used as the base material for smoke bombs. She is certain he does not know that. Dewi soon notices that the color of the smoke is changing. When the juice of the stems is released, it transforms into a poisonous vapor. Soon, their stomachs begin to ache. Dewi grows both alarmed and furious, demanding to know what she has done. Bia calmly asks him how it tastes. He attempts to leap over, but before he can reach her, Juwon steps in and delivers a powerful strike, sending him flying backward. The others are thrown into panic. Juwon then orders them to take Dewi and leave if they do not wish to suffer the same fate. Faced with his warning, they retreat, carrying Dewi away. As they go, Bia calls after them, advising that if they wish to detoxify themselves, they should chew on some china pink grass. Once they are gone, Juwon calls out to Bia, asking if she is truly alright. She looks at him and realizes that he must be shocked as well. No matter how mature he may appear, he is still only 9 years old, and she feels she should reassure him. She tells him that she is fine. However, in the next moment, a mouthful of blood suddenly spills from her lips. This startles him, and he grows visibly worried, asking in alarm whether she, too, is ill. She does not think it is a wrong thing to say, and she wonders whether it truly matters anyway. She has already used Dojin earlier too, so this amount feels insignificant to her. If she only has water, she believes she can heal it quickly. However, before she is able to do so, Ju-won suddenly approaches and begins to rub her face. She immediately asks what he is doing, feeling puzzled by his sudden action. He explains that since she has used Dojian, washing it off is the most basic step that must be taken. From his perspective, her symptoms are clearly different from those of the other men, and it appears that she has already been sick from the very beginning. That realization explains why he had found the situation so strange earlier. If she had truly been healthy, she would have been living in the main house, just like his little uncle's daughter. Despite his reasoning, Bia thinks differently. In her mind, no iron had shown any signs of her ability since birth, and that is precisely why she simply did not have any visible indication of it. As Ju-won instructs her to take a sniff, she cannot help but think that this is utter nonsense. She feels as though her face is about to peel off from the irritation. Still, she reminds herself that this body possesses a self-healing ability after all, and she trusts that it will recover in time. Eventually, the two of them find themselves sitting alone together. In that quiet moment, Ju-won begins to question whether she truly means what she has implied, whether she is claiming that she possesses a healing ability. Bia confirms this without hesitation. He becomes visibly taken aback when he learns that she has already been treating his little uncle, and that the uncle has even shown signs of improvement. She further reveals that she came searching for him because she also intends to heal his father. She affirms firmly that this is indeed her purpose. In her thoughts, she reflects that if she had an uncle of her own, matters would have been much easier for her. However, she has no such support, no assistance from anyone at all, and certainly no help has been given to her. Ju-won acknowledges that he understands her words, yet he admits that believing everything she says is still difficult. Even so, he claims that he understands the overall situation. Despite this understanding, however, he still refuses to allow her to meet his father. This refusal immediately causes Bia to question his reasoning. She wonders whether the refusal stems from a lack of trust in her skills and abilities. Ju-won clarifies that this is not the case. The true reason lies in the condition of his father, who is currently in a state of madness. He explains that madness is considered a disease in which only the instinct to hunt remains, leaving the afflicted person with an uncontrollable urge to destroy everything around them. His uncle, he recalls, had been especially well known for possessing an intense and dangerous killing intent alone. Bia has heard before that his uncle was once a great warrior prior to falling ill. Furthermore, he had been a lightning wielder, capable of controlling lightning with such extraordinary skill that even the imperial family had been eager to recruit him, or so the stories say. Ju-won continues to explain that his father's illness is divided into distinct periods, a normal period and a madness period. During the normal period, his father lives as he usually does, behaving in a calm and ordinary manner. However, during the madness period, he isolates himself inside a secured cell to prevent causing harm to others. Because of this cycle, Ju-won intends to wait until his father returns to a stable period once again, and only then will he allow Bia the opportunity to meet him. Then Bia thinks that if that is truly the reason, it is a pity, yet there is nothing she can do about it. Accepting the situation, she tells Ju-won that she understands and that she will return later, since the madness period is about to end anyway. As she begins to leave, he suddenly calls out to her and stops her in her tracks. He urges her not to go and instead suggests that they live together at his place, assuring her that he will take care of her. This proposal causes Bia to question whether he is still misunderstanding her intentions. However, Ju-won explains that even his father could not accept things easily at first. He points out the dangers of her being alone, especially considering that Daewoo will never let today's matters rest. He is certain that Daewoo will eventually return to seek revenge, and because of that, she should remain with him until the threat has passed. He reminds her that he owes her a debt and intends to repay it. To further support his words, he takes out something that crackles faintly with lightning. As he shows it to her, he reveals that he is actually an ability user as well. He explains that this is a secret within the family. There is a strict rule that any children who show abilities, or even signs of them, must be raised in the main house. This revelation makes Bia realize that Ju-won has likely been hiding his ability all this time in order to remain outside the main house and continue taking care of his father. In the original story, she remembers, it had been stated that he awakened his ability in prison, so this truth differs from what she once believed. Ju-won continues speaking, reminding her of the earlier encounter with Daewoo and his gang. He explains that if she had not stepped in at that moment, the situation would not have ended so simply. Without her intervention, he would have been punished for the incident, and his father would have surely been deeply saddened by the outcome. Because of that, he asks her to consider his offer as a token of his gratitude. These words cause Bia to smile inwardly, thinking that he truly knows how to say heartwarming things. However, Ju-won adds another remark, stating that it would be far better for her to live at his place rather than remain in what he calls the pigsty of her current room. Hearing this, her expression changes instantly, and she becomes extremely irritated. She wonders what in the world he has just said and what exactly is wrong with her room, feeling both offended and indignant at his blunt words. Soon afterward, events unfold so that Bia begins living at Ju-won's residence. The scene shifts to her sitting down and eating her meal. The food tastes delicious, far better than she had expected. She reflects on how she ended up staying at Ju-won's residence, which proves to be far more comfortable than she had imagined. She had initially thought that he was only skilled in martial arts, yet she now realizes that he is also excellent at housework. She even finds herself wondering whether there is anything that this man cannot do. In her thoughts, she acknowledges that he did not spend 4 years nursing someone for nothing. Above all, she realizes that it has been such a long time since she last had a warm meal like this. Until now, she has been surviving on scraps and leftovers. It is not that her stepmother failed to send food ingredients, but those supplies always ended up being delivered to her birth mother's quarters instead. She has no desire to go there, nor does she have any intention of visiting that place in the future. At last, after finishing her thoughts, Bia asks Ju-won when she will be able to go see his uncle. He pauses for a moment to consider her request, thinking carefully before answering. After reflecting briefly, he decides that today should be acceptable. Hearing this response fills Bia with happiness, as she realizes that she will finally get the chance to meet her uncle. He notices that the red ribbon is out, and Bia questions what it signifies. He explains that it is a signal he and his father had agreed upon long ago. This string, when placed at the entrance, is meant to indicate that his father has regained his senses. The explanation brings a wave of relief to her, and she silently gives thanks. In her previous life, the uncle she encountered had been in the worst possible state, his madness raging at its absolute peak. This moment marks the very first time she is seeing her uncle in what should have been his original, sane form. Bia assumes that he is probably somewhere in the garden, and soon enough, Ju-won spots him standing at a distance. Tyler calls out to him, expecting recognition, expecting clarity, but when the man turns toward them, their expectations shatter instantly. They see at once that he is still trapped within his madness episode. There is something disturbingly wrong about his condition today, something far from ordinary. Bia notices, with growing unease, that he has also injured a bird, its fragile form evidence of uncontrolled violence. The sight deepens her dread. Both of them realize, in that chilling instant, that they are in grave danger. There is no focus in his eyes, no trace of awareness or reason, only chaos and emptiness. Suddenly, he begins running straight toward them. In that terrifying moment, Ju-won grabs Bia and pulls her backward, falling as he tries to create distance between them and the approaching figure. As the man charges forward again, he turns his gaze toward Bia, his eyes fixed on her in a way that feels deeply unnatural and unsettling. That strange look triggers an overwhelming sense of nostalgia within her, dragging her mind back to fragments of her previous life. The memory feels heavy and suffocating, as though history itself is repeating before her eyes. Before the man can reach her again, Ju-won acts swiftly, pulling Bia away once more and forcing himself into motion. He begins running, his grip tight as he drags her along to escape the relentless pursuit behind them. While they run, panic presses against his thoughts, and he wonders desperately whether she possesses any ability to use water offensively, whether she could attack or slow the threat somehow. But Bia makes it clear that such power is beyond her. She is a healer, not a fighter, and if she had possessed that kind of destructive strength, she would have already used it long ago, especially against the Crown Prince. As they continue fleeing, Ju-won's thoughts spiral into confusion and fear. He cannot understand why this is happening. The madness should have ended by now. It always ends according to the pattern they know. He clearly remembers placing the string at the entrance himself, leaving it as the agreed signal. Everything should have followed its proper course, yet reality is defying expectation. Amid the chaos, Bia urges him to steady himself and listen carefully, forcing her own fear down so that her mind can remain clear. She realizes that panic alone will doom them both. What they need now is not strength or speed alone, but the right remedy. With urgency rising in her chest, she understands that the only way to stop her uncle's rampaging madness is through medicine, and she realizes that she needs time, precious time, to prepare the medicine. Without it, there is no way to stop the raging madness. Her thoughts move quickly, calculating possibilities, weighing survival against inevitability. She asks how many minutes he believes he can hold out against his father. Her voice carries urgency, yet also a fragile thread of hope. He responds in a grim, almost bitter tone, telling her that instead of asking how many minutes, she should be asking how many seconds. The correction alone makes her heart sink. She questions him again, this time asking how many seconds he can truly endure. His reply comes without hesitation: 30 seconds. The number feels crushingly small, suffocating in its hopelessness. She immediately realizes that such a short span of time will not be nearly enough. Under normal circumstances, her diagnostic ability requires more time to properly assess a condition and identify the necessary remedy. Still, despite knowing the limitations, she forces herself to proceed. She cannot afford to hesitate now. Even as she begins the diagnosis, doubt creeps into her mind. She knows she cannot hold out for long, and the pressure tightens around her chest. A painful thought crosses her mind: if only she were more skilled with her ability, if only she had trained harder or possessed greater mastery. Another longing follows closely behind: if only her other uncle were here, someone strong enough to restrain the madness without risking their lives. But wishes hold no power in this moment, and reality presses forward without mercy. While she focuses on her diagnosis, Ju-won admits with blunt honesty that he lacks confidence. He confesses that he has never managed to withstand even 3 blows against his father before. The admission hangs heavily in the air, revealing the depth of danger they face. Yet despite his fear, he does not retreat. Since she has managed to buy him even a small amount of time, he gathers lightning into his grasp, drawing power despite his trembling uncertainty. He knows he has no choice but to try. At the very instant the water bubble surrounding the situation bursts apart, Ju-won lunges forward. He strikes without hesitation, engaging his father head-on. The clash is fierce and immediate, steel and power colliding in violent bursts. Watching from behind, Bia cannot help but feel surprised. He is fighting better than she expected, more determined, more controlled than she had imagined possible. Yet her attention quickly shifts as she notices something strange. Her uncle pushes his sword forward with force, yet there is a subtle hesitation in the movement, a faint restraint that does not go unnoticed. It makes her wonder, with growing confusion, whether her uncle is holding back even in his madness. But that fleeting hope shatters when her uncle suddenly unleashes lightning toward Ju-won. The attack strikes with terrifying force, sending him flying backward and forcing him to throw himself aside to survive. The violent motion leaves him vulnerable, and instinctively, Bia rushes toward him, desperate to check his condition. However, before she can even reach him, her uncle leaps forward and lands directly in front of her, cutting off her path entirely. There is absolutely no way to dodge. The realization settles in her mind with terrifying clarity. The distance is too short, the attack too sudden, the force too overwhelming. Behind her, Ju-won cries out desperately, calling to his father, pleading for him to stop, his voice filled with anguish as he begs him not to do this. Bia closes her eyes, surrendering to the inevitable. In that final moment, she silently offers thanks, as though acknowledging fate itself. She reflects bitterly that her 4th life is about to end in record time. She had believed that things would be different this time, that after fixing her uncle, everything would finally begin anew, that this life would not follow the same tragic path as the ones before. Yet it had only just begun, and already it seemed destined to collapse. Then, suddenly, something unexpected happens. She hears a voice, firm, unfamiliar, yet filled with certainty, declaring that she will not dodge. The words reach her ears just as a fist comes flying toward her. Shock ripples through her senses. She notices, in disbelief, that someone using water has restrained her uncle, binding his movements with overwhelming precision. The violent charge halts, frozen mid-action. Slowly, she opens her eyes and looks upward. What she sees leaves her questioning everything. Standing before her is a man whose presence feels both imposing and exasperated, as though burdened by the situation itself. A frustrated remark escapes him, complaining that their compatibility is terrible, as well, as if fate itself has chosen to torment him. He questions aloud what kind of suffering this is, expressing irritation at the sheer misfortune of the moment he has awakened. And in that instant, realization strikes her with breathtaking force. The man standing before her, the one who has restrained her uncle with water and stopped the fatal blow, is her 3rd uncle. Bia feels an unmistakable sense of relief the moment she sees her 3rd uncle, a quiet gladness rising inside her at the sight of him. At the same time, confusion quickly follows that relief. According to the family's cycle, he should still be deep in his enforced rest, not expected to awaken for at least 4 more days. His presence here, at this exact moment, feels impossible, almost unreal, and she cannot help but wonder how he has appeared so suddenly despite the strict rhythm his body is supposed to follow. Her third uncle, however, carries himself with his usual exaggerated confidence, as though the situation unfolding around them is merely another opportunity to showcase his greatness. He boasts about how fortunate she is that he has appeared at the very moment of crisis, presenting himself as though he were some heroic savior arriving on cue. His self-satisfaction radiates so strongly that Bia cannot suppress the thought forming in her mind. To her, his attitude borders on ridiculous, and she silently questions what exactly is wrong with him, concluding with mild irritation that he truly is a complete narcissist. While he indulges in his self-praise, the battlefield itself remains tense and dangerous. Nearby, her first uncle struggles to restrain the violent assault that continues to surge forward with destructive force. The pressure in the air feels suffocating, filled with crackling energy that threatens to burst at any moment. Even amid the chaos, her third uncle continues to act as though he is some legendary figure, declaring himself to be far more important than she might realize. As Bia watches him closely, she begins to notice something that makes her perception shift. The water surrounding him is nothing like the gentle stream she commands. Her own water has always functioned as a conduit for healing, soft and restorative, shaped to mend wounds and preserve life. His, however, carries a completely different nature. It moves with aggression, sharpness, and lethal precision. This water is not meant to soothe or restore, it is meant to fight. A realization settles heavily in her thoughts. She has heard stories throughout her life about the true power of their family's greatest water user, tales spoken with awe and reverence. Until this moment, those stories had remained distant legends, almost mythical in nature. Now, standing before him, witnessing the violent strength radiating from his control, she understands that this is the true form described in those stories. This is the power that earned him such renown despite his confidence. Even her third uncle recognizes the gravity of the situation. He silently laments the misfortune of having to confront the eldest brother under such unfavorable circumstances. His strength is not at its peak, and more importantly, the elemental matchup itself works against him. Water, by nature, suffers a severe disadvantage when facing lightning. The crackling energy in the air makes that weakness painfully obvious. Realizing the danger, he turns his focus toward Bia, urgently signaling that even with his abilities, he cannot maintain control over the eldest brother for long while the latter remains in an uncontrollable state. The strain shows beneath his bravado. He needs a solution, any method capable of bringing the chaos to an end. Bia quickly assesses the situation and determines that there is indeed a possible way to stop him. However, the method requires time-precious moments that must be bought through sheer endurance. Her third uncle accepts this responsibility without hesitation, fully aware that his role now is to delay the inevitable as long as possible. As he prepares to hold the line, another alarming detail emerges. A lightning strike looms dangerously within the battlefield, intensifying the threat surrounding them. The presence of lightning amplifies the already dire situation, and the knowledge of it sends a surge of anxiety through Bia. Even so, she cannot help but acknowledge how impressive her third uncle appears in this moment, standing firm against overwhelming odds. Yet his earlier warning echoes in her mind. He cannot hold out for long. The reality of the ticking time limit presses down on her, urging her into immediate action. With urgency driving her forward, Bia rushes toward Juwon, knowing that he might hold the key to what she needs. The situation leaves no room for hesitation. She urgently asks whether he has ever seen red flower petals like the ones she now holds in mind, specifically those found in the eastern region known as Bing. Juwon confirms that he has indeed seen such petals before. Without wasting another second, he lifts her swiftly, his movements decisive and purposeful. He points toward a specific direction, indicating that the place she seeks lies that way. As she is carried forward, a troubling thought crosses her mind. She cannot help but wonder who could have been attempting to create drugs or anesthetics in this place. The presence of such materials suggests deliberate preparation, hinting that someone had been working here with intentions that remain unknown, adding yet another layer of mystery to the already chaotic situation unfolding around them. Bia pushes deeper into the garden, her surroundings quickly revealing a disturbing truth. Poisonous plants fill the area in dense clusters, their presence far too deliberate to be accidental. Among them, poppies bloom in unsettling abundance, their delicate petals disguising the lethal danger they hold. It becomes painfully clear to her that this is no natural growth. Someone has cultivated this garden with clear intent, planting these toxic herbs for a specific purpose. The realization sends a chill through her, yet there is no time to dwell on suspicion. With urgency tightening her chest, She reaches forward and grasps one of the plants, her fingers steady despite the racing of her thoughts. Deep inside, she clings to a single desperate wish that her third uncle will not be defeated before she returns. He does not need to win the battle outright, he only needs to endure a little longer. Just a few more moments of survival would be enough for her plan to take shape. Elsewhere, the clash between her uncles continues without pause. Her third uncle remains locked in combat against her first uncle, the battlefield crackling with tension and violent energy. Amid the struggle, the third uncle's thoughts drift briefly to the past, recalling that his eldest brother had once been a good and honorable man before illness overtook him. That memory, spoken aloud with a hint of bitterness and regret, only serves to provoke further fury. The first uncle reacts violently, his anger igniting once again as another lightning strike tears through the air. The sudden attack forces the third uncle to shift his footing quickly, irritation flashing through his mind. He cannot help but think with exasperation that his brother is not even granting him a single moment to linger in old memories. Instead, the relentless assault feels like an outright attempt to kill his own younger brother without hesitation. As he continues fighting, darker thoughts creep into his mind. He cannot ignore the cruel reality that all of the brothers have been afflicted with strange and devastating illnesses. The thought fills him with deep resentment and humiliation. To him, it feels like a disgrace upon their once proud family. There seems no logical reason why 3 sons of such strength and prestige would all fall victim to incurable diseases. These were not ordinary men, they were the most outstanding martial artists of their generation. For them to collapse under mysterious ailments feels unnatural, almost like an omen. A chilling possibility takes hold of his thoughts. Perhaps this is a sign that their family is destined to fall into ruin. Worse still, he wonders whether the misfortune might spread to the next generation. The horrifying question lingers in his mind: what if these diseases are hereditary, destined to pass down to their children and stain the family's future forever? Those fears are not his alone. He recalls how, upon hearing similar words spoken by others one day, rage had surged through him uncontrollably. That memory burns vividly within him. He remembers leaping forward in fury, demanding to know what kind of nonsense they had dared to utter. The mere suggestion that their bloodline was cursed had filled him with a fury so intense that it nearly consumed him. In that desperate time, after entrusting his daughter to someone he trusted and being confined within the eastern wing, his hope had steadily faded. Imprisoned and isolated, he had prepared himself for the worst. He believed that his condition would only worsen with time, that he would slowly lose consciousness and eventually sink into an endless sleep from which he would never awaken. Death had seemed inevitable, creeping closer with each passing day. Yet everything changed at the moment Bia arrived. Her presence had reignited a faint spark within him, a fragile glimmer of hope that he had believed long extinguished. Though the change was subtle, he could feel it unmistakably. His body, once trapped in decline, had begun to recover, even if only slightly. That tiny shift was enough to reshape his resolve. Fueled by that renewed determination, he continues to clash against his first brother, refusing to yield even as exhaustion gnaws at his strength. In his heart, he makes a silent vow to protect this fragile lifeline at all costs. Turning his focus toward the eldest brother, he calls out with fierce conviction that if Bia were to die here, it would be their greatest loss. He recognizes her potential clearly now. She is no ordinary healer, but a genius physician capable of curing the very diseases that threaten to destroy them all. With that belief anchoring his will, he urges his brother to break free from madness and regain his senses. That very moment, Bia finally arrives, breathless yet resolute. Without hesitation, she thrusts forward the object she carries, signaling urgently that it must be used immediately. Her third uncle notices that what she has brought is a needle small, sharp, and filled with the substance she has prepared. Beside her, Juan reinforces her instruction, conveying that she insists the needle must be driven directly into an artery. The third uncle processes this quickly, interpreting the instruction to mean that he should stab it into his neck, where a major artery lies close to the surface. Without allowing himself a moment of doubt, he acts. The needle plunges into his neck in one swift motion. Almost instantly, the effect becomes visible. The first uncle, who moments earlier radiated unstoppable fury, suddenly collapses to the ground, his body losing all strength as though cut loose from its power. Relief floods the tense air. Bia watches closely, her voice filled with cautious hope as she confirms that the method has worked. Her third uncle, though relieved, remains bewildered by the suddenness of the outcome. He cannot help but question what exactly this substance is. What kind of medicine could cause their eldest brother to collapse so completely in a single moment? Calmly, Bia explains the truth. What she has created is an anesthetic and exceptionally powerful one. Its potency is so great that it possesses enough strength to bring down approximately 10 elephants, rendering even massive creatures unconscious within moments. They restrain the first uncle carefully, taking precautions in case he regains strength or becomes violent again. The third uncle turns his attention to Bia and questions whether she has assured everyone that the anesthetic she prepared is safe. Bia feels a flash of irritation at the doubt placed on her abilities, because she clearly remembers telling them that it is safe, and she wonders why they still do not trust her judgment. In her thoughts, she reminds herself that they seem to underestimate how tough that man truly is. She knows with certainty that the substance is not poison, and she even took the time to adjust the dosage while keeping drug resistance in mind. She feels relieved that she remembered something she once heard from her uncle long ago, back when he was speaking about such matters. The third uncle continues pressing her, asking how she can be so confident in her conclusion. In response, Bia proudly declares that she is a genius, believing that her confidence alone should be enough to convince him. Instead of being reassured, he reacts by pinching her cheek in annoyance, scolding her for giving an answer that explains absolutely nothing and warning her that such carelessness could get her killed someday. Ju-won steps in quickly and asks the third uncle to release her cheek, concerned about how roughly he is treating her. He explains that the full story behind the situation is quite long and complicated, but before exchanging pleasantries or explanations, he feels there is something important that needs to be said. He emphasizes that Bia is still only a child and questions whether the third uncle truly believes that placing so much responsibility on her is reasonable. Hearing this, the third uncle comments that Ju-won remains as nagging as ever, noting that the way he speaks sounds exactly like his eldest sister-in-law. The resemblance in tone and manner gives him an unexpected chill. Meanwhile, another voice nearby points out that the third uncle himself remains immature despite his age and experience. At that very moment, they hear the restrained first uncle begin to speak, his voice sounding weak yet conscious as he wonders aloud whether he has finally died. His gaze drifts unfocused, and he claims to see an incredibly cute baby fairy floating in front of him. Bia watches this scene with curiosity and realizes that this is her first time seeing her first uncle when he is not consumed by madness. The calmness in his expression feels unfamiliar to her, and she studies his face carefully. The first uncle, still disoriented, continues wondering whether he is truly alive or has somehow crossed into the afterlife. The third uncle immediately reacts, stepping closer and urgently asking his brother whether he is already awake and aware of his surroundings. Ju-won moves forward as well, kneeling beside his father and asking anxiously if he is all right. The first uncle responds that he is indeed fine, though his voice remains tired, and he notices the tears forming in Ju-won's eyes. He tells his son not to cry, reminding him that his handsome father cannot even pat him on the head at the moment because his hands are still tied. With a hint of humor, he adds that if he truly ends up in the afterlife, he will make sure to tell his wife that their son has grown into a crybaby. Ju-won immediately protests against such words, insisting that his father should not talk as if death is inevitable, and he reminds him that this time the situation was extremely dangerous. The first uncle softens his tone and reassures him, saying that he understands and will try to remember this lesson. He recalls that his wife once warned him that if he hurt someone even one more time, she would personally make sure to punish him herself. Hearing this remark, the third uncle questions him, puzzled by how he can already find something to laugh about when the situation had only just been so serious moments before. He further adds that this is no time for greetings, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. Meanwhile, the first uncle begins to question why his body feels so strange, noticing that he cannot move at all. Confusion spreads across his face as he wonders what exactly is happening to him. The third uncle calmly explains that the sensation is caused by the anesthetic administered earlier. Hearing this explanation makes the first uncle remark that the feeling is noticeably different from what he usually experiences. Eventually, he is released from restraint, yet even after being freed, he still cannot move his body at all. Observing this, Bia silently wonders whether he has always been like this in terms of physical strength and reaction. However, she quickly reminds herself that, of course, he cannot move immediately after receiving such a powerful dose. If he were able to move right away, then he would be comparable to a super elephant in terms of endurance. At the same time, she reflects on the sheer strength of his body and questions whether this is the kind of physical power expected from someone blessed by a dragon. She recalls that among certain people of the eastern continent, individuals like them are born with bodies far stronger than ordinary people, having received the blessing of the dragon that is worshipped as a god in the east. In the western continents, a similar belief exists, where dragons are also worshipped as gods, and people receive blessings associated with them. The 6 great houses are known to raise such individuals as warriors, preparing them for battles and responsibilities from an early age. In a land filled with discrimination, it became natural for warriors to act as protectors of physicians, creating a structured relationship of dependence and protection. Yet for Bia, that protection was a privilege she never once enjoyed. She has lived her entire life being treated as nothing more than a tool by her family, rather than someone worthy of care or companionship. Even beyond that, she remembers that there was never anyone who truly stood by her side. During the 3rd round of trials, she did manage to form a connection with someone she could barely call a friend, though even that relationship felt fragile and uncertain. Still, she pushes those thoughts aside, reminding herself that regardless of the past, both the 3rd uncle and the 1st uncle would have been exceptional warriors if not for their illness. Establishing a positive relationship with them will become a tremendous advantage when facing the difficult trials that lie ahead. After a moment, the 1st uncle speaks again, suddenly recalling something that catches his attention. He remarks that, now that he thinks about it, he has not yet asked who the small baby fairy standing nearby is. Hearing this, Bia steps forward politely and greets him, introducing herself as Bia. He looks at her with curiosity and questions what could have brought such a little child here today. As she prepares to answer, hesitation fills her mind. She quickly considers the possibility that if he learns she used anesthetics on him, he might feel hostility toward her without understanding the situation fully. Although the anesthetic she prepared was carefully designed with side effects in mind, she remembers that the family once used a brutal anesthetic on the great uncle in the past. If he misunderstands and assumes she did the same, he might become angry. For that reason, she decides that it would be better to remain silent for now and avoid unnecessary explanations. However, before she can carry out that plan, Juan suddenly steps forward and speaks openly to his father. Without hesitation, he explains that Bia is the one who helped them during the crisis. He identifies her as the daughter of the big uncle and reveals that she was the one who created the anesthetic that stopped his father's violent rampage. He also adds that she intends to cure his father's illness, speaking with sincerity and gratitude. Hearing this, Bia internally questions why he could not simply remain quiet, as his honesty exposes everything she wished to conceal. The 1st uncle responds with mild surprise, remarking that it seems this baby fairy truly is a fairy after all. Hearing him use that nickname again makes Bia question internally whether he could not simply call her by her proper name instead. To her surprise, however, he reaches out and gently pats her head, expressing sincere thanks for her help. She becomes momentarily stunned and questions whether he truly feels no anger toward her action. In response, he calmly asks why she would assume he would be angry. He explains that thanks to her efforts, he did not hurt anyone during his episode. Although he jokingly remarks that it is a pity he could not turn his brother into a proper grilled meal, the comment immediately irritates his brother, who demands to know who he is calling grilled. Ignoring the protest, the 1st uncle continues speaking to Bia and suggests that she likely protected his son as well, which is something he values deeply. Protecting his son is something he wishes to avoid risking more than anything else, and because of that, he acknowledges her as their benefactor. Hearing such words causes Bia to pause in deep thought. The warmth in his tone feels unfamiliar and strangely comforting. After spending her entire life being treated like nothing more than a disposable tool by her family, experiencing such easygoing kindness feels foreign and difficult to process. After a brief silence, the 1st uncle asks whether she is planning to treat both him and the 3rd uncle. She answers honestly that she intends to do exactly that. He nods, expressing once again that he appreciates her good intentions. However, he admits that there is something he feels curious about. He questions why she chose to help them first, pointing out that she has family members who are far closer to her than they are. Naturally, he notes that the closest of all would be her own father, who resides in the Eastern Wing. Her father, like his brothers, falls ill and is confined to the Eastern Wing, and in the original work he dies early, the reason remaining unknown. She would never be the one to seek out such a father first. At first, she feels happy simply knowing that she has a father in Korea. In her earlier life as an orphan, she makes good friends, and there are people who treat her warmly, yet somewhere deep within her heart she continues to dream of having a real family. That longing becomes the reason she waits, even while being abused in the orphanage, living like a slave and enduring beatings. She keeps believing that someday her father will come to find her, that he will save her from that place, and that she will finally have a family of her own. In her second life, that longing grows even stronger, yet even when she is falsely accused, she does not ask for help immediately. Instead, She only asks whether someone delivers the letter to her father and what his response is. When the maid listens carefully and relays the message, she learns that her father denies her existence, declaring that he does not have a daughter. After being abandoned in 2 separate lives, she enters her 3rd life carrying the weight of that rejection, and this time she leaves the family without any regret. Now it is already her 4th life, and in this life there is no father in her world anymore. Even if he once had his reasons, the truth that he never helped her does not change, and if he never had any reason at all, then her anger becomes even greater. In this life, she decides to focus only on finding her way back home, believing that she has no time to worry about a father who might as well not exist. She recognizes that she needs to calm herself, understanding that the question she faces now is not unexpected anyway. There is also a genuine reason she chooses to save her uncle, a reason that runs deeper than obligation alone. She explains that the reason she comes to find her uncle first is because, even if they might not remember it themselves, they were once kind to her. Her memories return to the events of her first life, when her uncle's madness reaches its peak. During that time, chaos spreads everywhere, and people shout for everyone to get away because the blackguard is rampaging without control. Panic rises among the crowd as someone suggests pushing that monster into the enemy lines for mutual destruction. Others immediately realize that they would all be dead before they could even push him forward, and desperate voices echo that someone needs to stop that man. At that very moment in the past, someone grabs Bia and pulls her forward, insisting that she must take action because she possesses outstanding healing abilities. She should go and stop that thing, yet inside she is thrown into that room at that very time. The Black family has already planned to unleash her uncle's madness and throw him toward the rival forces, but when they can no longer handle the rampage, they push her in as a scapegoat. Even as she is forced inside, the situation is already beyond control, and the chaos of the experiment has fully spiraled out of reach. When she finally opens her eyes, she sees her uncle in front of her. He is crying, saying that she is far too young to be involved in something like this. He repeatedly expresses his sorrow, calling her a pretty girl in a broken, regretful tone. Yet she understands that he does not need to apologize. What is truly awful is not him, but this family that does not even allow her a peaceful death. Despite everything, she still thanks him. After all, he will likely be the only one here who will mourn her death. He is the only person who has ever shown her any warmth. In her previous cycles, she turns away because she feels there is no room left in her heart to spare anything more, but this time she chooses to face it directly and help him without hesitation. She tells him that she is sad about something earlier, that he will not remember her, which leads him to think it is strange. He believes that if he had ever seen such a pretty child before, there is no way he would have forgotten her. Meanwhile, Juwon speaks to his father, remarking that this kind of statement sounds exactly like something a scandal-prone person would say. The third uncle then intervenes, questioning the situation further and asking how she should be regarded. He concludes that the eldest brother could be considered someone she has met before, but he does not understand why she has come specifically to look for him. Hearing that she has come as a bodyguard in preparation for his madness sounds suspicious and slightly incorrect, so the explanation is adjusted, and it is stated that she has come as an inspector instead. This leads to further questioning, as he wonders if she truly sees him as someone to be dealt with so lightly, almost like something disposable on this side, and yet she still chose to approach him before even going to the eldest brother. She begins to cough, trying to steady herself, and says that regardless of everything, things will be fine now because she is capable of treating them. Her first uncle acknowledges her words, even if only to express gratitude. However, the third uncle understands the situation more deeply and finds the entire claim difficult to accept. He admits that he once felt the same skepticism himself, but this time he believes she may truly be different. Thanks to her, he was able to wake up in just 3 days, which indicates that she is not ordinary. In fact, they may be looking at a genius destined to become the greatest physician in the entire city, and possibly even the country. The first uncle comments that their youngest is becoming overly boastful after sleeping for so long, although he does acknowledge the unusual nature of the situation. Observing the younger one's reaction, it becomes clear that she is indeed different from the doctors they have encountered before. In that case, since she appears to understand the situation so well despite her age, he asks her directly what she wants in return for treating them. As expected, her uncle realizes that her goodwill is not entirely without intention. She responds that there is indeed one thing she would like in return. She asks them to become her guardians and take her to the medicinal academy. She has already formed ties with the future warriors, and now she believes it is time to move forward to the next stage, the stage of becoming the greatest physician under heaven. However, to her surprise, they tell her that this request may not be possible. She immediately asks why, and the explanation follows that the youngest and one other once went off the rails long ago and harmed someone, resulting in a restriction. Because of this, they are effectively banned from going outside. The revelation shocks her deeply, as she realizes how absurd the situation is. She has waited for so long for the moment she could finally reach the market and step beyond these constraints. After all the hardship she endured just to secure those warriors, she now discovers that they are not even allowed to leave. She is still young and cannot go out alone without a guardian, leaving her trapped within the same boundaries she tried so hard to escape. Desperately, she asks if there is truly no other way. The first uncle responds that there is none. In the entire Eastern Wing, there is exactly one patient who is not banned from going out. Before she even needs to hear the name, she already knows the answer, and she silently asks him not to say it. But he confirms it anyway. It is, of course, her father. Bia is seen digging something out of the ground, struggling with her small hands as she searches for medicinal herbs. In the process, she loses her balance, trips, and falls onto the ground. Despite the fall, her focus does not shift. Her mind remains fixed on the patient she wants to cure. She knows that proper medicine is necessary, and whatever is available on this side is simply not enough. Beyond the wall lies the Empire's 3 great regions, places known for their abundant and superior medicinal resources. The thought lingers in her mind, making her question why she cannot simply cross over. For a moment, she contemplates sneaking out alone. However, that thought is quickly overshadowed by the harsh reality of her situation. She is trapped in the body of a 3-year-old child, completely vulnerable. Outside, there are dangerous forces targeting families with healing abilities, abducting children like her. If she were to leave alone, something terrible could happen before anyone even notices her absence. At this rate, she realizes she might not even gain recognition within her own family, let alone achieve her goal of becoming the greatest physician. As she remains on the ground, caught in her thoughts, her third uncle approaches and questions what she is doing. Instead of answering properly, Bia reacts with a pout, asking if he had seen that, before complaining that she does not know anything and that it is all their fault. Her uncle responds with sarcasm, remarking that she looks like an earthworm wriggling on the ground. Rather than backing down, Bia retorts cleverly, stating that if she is an earthworm, then he must be the soil, since earthworms are said to purify the ground. Her unexpected reply irritates him, and he raises his voice, demanding to know where she learned such insolence. At that very moment, Juwon happens to pass by and notices the scene. He immediately intervenes, questioning what exactly is going on. His expression shows clear displeasure as he turns his attention to the third uncle, reminding him how many times he has already said that Bia is only 3 years old. The third uncle attempts to defend himself, claiming that the situation is somewhat unfair to him. However, Juwon does not accept this excuse and continues to reprimand him, emphasizing that children must be treated with care. He points out that the uncle himself has a daughter, making his behavior even more unreasonable. In response, the third uncle remarks that Juwon is only trying to act like the coolest young master in front of his own daughter. As this unfolds, Bia silently observes the situation, thinking to herself that the uncle has essentially exposed everything the moment he opened his mouth. She even wonders if it is truly possible for someone to reveal their intentions so effortlessly. Meanwhile, Juwon continues his scolding, maintaining his firm stance as he addresses the uncle. Juwon continues speaking firmly, expressing that he had not realized the youngest uncle lacked such basic common sense. His tone carries both disappointment and authority as he questions whether the uncle would prefer to have a proper discussion with him now, or if what has already been said is sufficient. This immediately provokes the uncle, who raises his voice in protest, asking whether Juwon considers himself his teacher and why he should waste his precious time listening to him. However, Juwon calmly shifts the situation, asking instead if he would prefer to have this conversation with his father. That single remark is enough to make the uncle falter, and he begrudgingly admits that such a move is nothing short of a dirty trick. Bia watches the exchange with quiet amusement, finding the situation unexpectedly entertaining. From her perspective, it feels as though Juwon is deliberately teasing their uncle. After all, it has already been 30 days since she first met him. She recalls how, back then, she had asked her first uncle whether there was truly no other way. He had laughed lightly and admitted that there was not, though he added that if her father were to hand over guardianship rights to them, they might be able to negotiate something with the family. Even so, that path would still require her to meet her father, something she has been avoiding. Despite thinking about it for days, she still does not want to face him and would rather avoid that encounter altogether if possible. Ju-won's attention then shifts back to Bia as he asks what she had been doing there. She answers honestly that she was pulling out medicinal herbs. He immediately dismisses the need for her to do such work, suggesting that she leave such physically demanding tasks to the youngest uncle, who is full of strength. He even adds that she could simply ask him for help, reminding her that it is not just her father and the youngest uncle who owe her a favor. He himself is also indebted to her as her benefactor. This reminder sparks a sense of pride in Bia. She reflects on how she had saved him from nearly going to prison, and without hesitation, she pats him as though praising a child. She remarks that he has grown big and strong, comparing him to a swallow that remembers kindness. She continues in a tone of approval, saying that his posture is good and that he should work hard, become stronger, and repay the favor properly. In the midst of this light-hearted moment, a sudden sound catches her attention. She pauses, wondering what it could be. Her gaze shifts as she notices something emerging, moving toward her before leaping directly onto her lap. Startled, she looks down, only to find a small, unfamiliar creature resting there. The third uncle quickly identifies it as a thunder beast. Confused, Bia initially misunderstands, thinking of something entirely different, which prompts the uncle to question what kind of strange thoughts she has. He then clarifies that it is not anything ordinary but a divine beast, an entity formed from lightning itself. He goes on to explain that when the power of those who wield nature-based abilities becomes exceptionally strong, that power can develop a will of its own and take on the form of an animal. These beings are known as divine beasts. Bia recalls that even the protagonist of the original story, Ryan, had possessed such a creature, a snake or bird-shaped divine beast that remained by her side. She has heard that these beings grow stronger the closer their form resembles that of a real animal. The third uncle continues, mentioning that his brother had once raised one or two such creatures, which surprises Bia greatly. She questions whether her uncle truly had a divine beast as well and wonders why she had never seen it, even when he lost control of himself. The uncle explains that it had been intentionally sealed away, as it would have been disastrous if a man already out of control had also unleashed a wild divine beast. He adds that while such beings are more commonly associated with people from the Western continent, it is not unheard of. Still, this revelation astonishes Bia, as it is a detail she had never encountered before, even in the original story. At that moment, the third uncle turns to Ju-won, questioning why he is pretending not to notice the creature that is clearly calling out to him. Ju-won responds calmly, stating that he never asked for it to appear. The uncle reacts with disbelief, accusing him of denying the existence of something others desperately wish for but can never obtain. He explains that divine beasts grow by receiving acknowledgement and trust from their masters, and that this one, in particular, seems to be starving for recognition. If Ju-won continues to reject it, the creature may not survive. Ju-won interrupts, stating that he already understands. His father had explained everything to him, so there is no need to repeat it. He insists that he knows what is at stake. Meanwhile, Bia, unable to contain her curiosity, asks her uncle to explain everything more clearly. The uncle elaborates that among those with special abilities, individuals whose power manifests as a divine beast are extremely rare. Such people can grow twice as strong when they work together with their divine beast. However, this only happens if the master acknowledges its existence. Without that acknowledgement, the creature cannot survive for long. He adds with frustration that Ju-won is essentially pushing away a rare and valuable fortune. Ju-won raises his voice in response, denying that he is rejecting it. He admits that even if he wants to face it, he cannot bring himself to do so. Before he can continue, the uncle cuts him off, already understanding his hesitation. It is obvious, he says, that Ju-won fears his father's illness might be hereditary. If he were to gain a divine beast and then lose control as his father did, he worries that he might end up harming others in the same way. Ju-won tells him to stop, insisting that he knows nothing, yet his uncle counters that it is impossible for him not to know. The uncle admits that he, too, is afraid that his daughter might inherit the same illness. Bia watches the two of them and questions why they are worrying over something so pointless. In her view, they should instead recognize what stands right before them, a genius physician. Only 2 days earlier, when she diagnosed her uncle, the number of medicines she needed to prepare had by no means been small. Even so, it was still fewer than what she had required for her other uncles. Moreover, during her third life, she has already treated both madness and Caesar's condition. As long as the correct ingredients are obtained from the market, there will be no issue at all. By making medicine, she can also improve this body's proficiency. Everything has already been carefully planned, leaving no reason for either her cousin brother or her uncle to worry. She reminds her uncle that he has already witnessed her abilities. Even the so-called sleepy-headed uncle, who had been a terminal patient, showed improvement under her care. She is far more capable than they realize, and the more they observe her, the more astonished they will become. Turning her attention to Ju-won, she urges him not to concern himself with anything else and to focus instead on how he will repay her. She even tells him to go ahead and take the beast, assuring him that there is absolutely no problem if he does so. From what she remembers, even if the black retainer darkens after her uncle's death, he does not succumb to madness. And even if such a situation were to arise, she is confident that she would be able to cure it. Ju-won, however, explains that he had never intended to completely get rid of the matter or ignore it. It is not as though the thought had never crossed his mind. He admits that it was frightening, deeply so. At times, he had even questioned why such a fate had appeared before him when he had never wanted it. In that sense, the younger master's uncle is correct. There has always been a lingering fear within him that one day he might develop the same illness as his father. The last physician who examined the matter had mentioned that there was a possibility of it being inherited. Ever since then, Ju-won had been haunted by the image of his father's condition worsening day by day, and he could not help but imagine a future in which he would follow the same path. That fear had once consumed him. But now, things feel different. He no longer dwells on that terrifying possibility. And the reason for this change is entirely because of Bia. With sincerity, he acknowledges that it is all thanks to her, and he firmly assures that he will repay this kindness. He properly acknowledges her brilliance, realizing that someone as extraordinary as Bia will inevitably require many powerful warriors to protect her in the future. At the same time, he desires to grow stronger himself. He reflects on how he has been a poor master until now, burdened with fear and hesitation, yet he quietly hopes that this pitiful child before him will not disappear. From this moment onward, he resolves to face the child directly and not turn him away again. There exists something similar in the original novel. Divine beasts and ability users are bound together as lifelong companions. Yet, in previous rounds, such bonds had been denied, rejected, and ultimately destroyed by their own master's hands. Bia cannot help but wonder how much despair the Black Retainer must have felt during those times. Even so, witnessing a patient overcome trials and recover always brings her a sense of fulfillment. There was once a time when her father had been the only source of comfort in this cruel and unforgiving world. As she reflects on this, she suddenly notices the beast flying toward her and wonders if this is its way of expressing gratitude. Observing it more closely, she finds it unexpectedly adorable, almost like a small chick. However, a sudden flash of memory interrupts her thoughts, reminding her that she does not have the luxury of focusing on such matters now. She steadies herself and reflects on the choice Ju-won has made to confront his fears with the belief that there is still hope and a future ahead. If that is the case, then she, too, must face what lies before her. After having boldly lectured him, it would be utterly ridiculous for her to turn away now. With her resolve firm, she declares that she has made up her mind. She will go to see her father. Soon after, she is seen working within the forest. She recalls how shocked the two of them had looked upon hearing her decision, and how she had barely managed to stop them from insisting on accompanying her. This time, however, she wants to go alone. Across her first, second, and third rounds, and even until the moment she finally decided to meet him herself, the same figure remains the Black Marquis, her father. A man who has never once come searching for her. Her mother, they say, died early due to illness, and even then, he made no effort to seek her out. Over the course of 3 lifetimes, Bia has gathered enough knowledge to roughly understand what that illness had been. Now that she has chosen to face him, she knows she must think calmly. If she considers her goals carefully, it may actually be more advantageous for a figure known as father to exist in her life. Rather than seeking affection, she decides to treat this encounter as a calculated move. She plans to propose a contract, a strictly mutual agreement. She has no need for something as sentimental as a father. As she continues walking along the eastern side of the forest, she knows that if she reaches the very end, she will find a massive cherry blossom tree. Beneath that tree sits the man she seeks, her father. When she finally approaches him, he looks at her and casually calls her a pretty child, asking who she is. In that moment, she stares at him, the man who has abandoned his daughter across 4 lifetimes. There are countless things she wishes to say, countless emotions stirring within her. Yet before anything else, there is something she has long wanted to call him, even if only once. She greets him, but instead of calling him father, she addresses him simply as Mr., the word leaving her lips heavy with restrained dissatisfaction. Her father stands still for a moment, visibly taken aback, a faint crease forming between his brows as he tries to process what he has just heard. Confusion flickers across his face, and he wonders quietly to himself what exactly she means. After a pause, he states that he will ask her again who she is. Bia notices the difference in their heights, how he towers over her so effortlessly. Without thinking, she has already addressed him as Mr., but now she realizes that perhaps she should stop making light of things in this life. She understands better than before that maintaining a good relationship with this man is important. Composing herself, she tells him that she is his daughter. He reacts with clear disbelief, questioning the statement internally. She repeats it once more, firmly, that she is indeed his daughter. He falls silent, thinking it over, before concluding that he does not have a daughter at all. That response confirms Bia's suspicion. This is how it begins. She understands now. His condition must have already progressed to this stage. To her, his illness resembles what she once learned to be Alzheimer's, a disease in which memories gradually deteriorate, leaving the mind clouded and unreliable. It erases everything: parents, siblings, friends, a spouse, even a child. She only came to understand it fully during the third run, but that knowledge is enough now. Whether he remembers or not no longer matters. With quiet resolve, she tells him that she does not care if he cannot remember her. If he brought her into this world, then the least he can do is take responsibility for her existence, he concedes with uncertainty. He vaguely recalls hearing that he was once married, and admits that it might be true. Yet doubt lingers. How is he supposed to believe her so easily? Bia senses the shift in the moment. This is where she can confirm something important: his power, just as her uncle once described. She asks him about it, her curiosity thinly veiled. He is puzzled by her question, wondering why she would ask such a thing. She explains that she has never witnessed it herself. That only deepens his confusion. If she truly is his daughter, then how has she been living all this time without ever seeing something so fundamental? The inconsistency troubles him, enough to give him a faint headache. Unbothered by his internal struggle, Bia presses on, asking whether he will tell her or not. Otherwise, she may as well leave. At that point, Juwon intervenes, urging patience. He quickly explains that he will tell her, asking her to stop rushing. He reveals that her father possesses control over wind, and not just at a basic level. His strength is immense. He is said to rival their eldest brother, perhaps even surpass him. He lives in isolation at the far end of the eastern wing, rarely stepping outside. It is no surprise that he does not recognize her. Not even her mother seems to exist clearly in his memory. At best, he retains a vague awareness that he was once married, but the details are completely gone. Bia considers this carefully before asking about his illness. Juwon admits that he knows nothing about it. There is no explanation, no diagnosis, only the symptoms they all witness. He tells her that if she wants answers, she should see her father herself. If she had not already known about his abilities, the encounter alone would have startled her. But now, she remains composed. As she moves forward, her gaze shifts toward the surroundings. A pond catches her attention. It had been there before as well. That is good. If things go wrong, it might prove useful. With that thought lingering in her mind, Bia steadies herself. She has already declared that she is his daughter. There is not a single trace of resemblance between her and him, and yet she declares it so boldly, without even a hint of hesitation. From an outsider's perspective, it almost seems shameless. Bia, however, knows the reason well. She takes entirely after her mother. In fact, even she had been surprised the first time she saw his portrait, unable to find any similarity between them. Her father remains unmoved. In his eyes, this situation is nothing new. He thinks that many fools have attempted this kind of nonsense before. Now that he is ill, people assume he has become an easy target. They mock him behind the facade of concern, even going as far as bringing children to deceive him. Whatever her motive may be, it does not matter to him. He refuses to acknowledge her as his daughter. He dismisses her outright. That single reaction sparks irritation in Bia. She labels his response as nothing but trash. He raises a brow at her attitude, questioning whether she has a death wish, whether she wants to fall into the pond nearby. Instead of backing down, she escalates without hesitation, calling him double trash and warning that he will regret this. Then, without losing momentum, she shifts her approach. She tells him that, for what it is worth, she is both a physician and an alchemist, and that evidence does not lie. To support her claim, she produces a paternity test kit. She explains its function clearly. The results are determined by color, blue if they are related, black if they are not. Only a single drop of blood is required. Without waiting for his approval, she proceeds. Both of them provide a drop of blood, and she presents the result to him. The color is blue. A quiet sense of relief passes through her. Fortunately, this world possesses paternity tests as well. With the frequency of noble scandals involving illegitimate children, such tools have become even more common here than they ever were on Earth. Despite the clear result, he remains unconvinced. He claims that something like this can easily be fabricated. Bia's patience snaps slightly. She insists that it is not fake, urging him to verify it himself outside if he doubts her. He would understand immediately. If that is still not enough, she offers him her blood directly so he can conduct the test personally. He studies her for a moment and remarks that her reckless treatment of her own body does, in some way, resemble his bloodline. He admits that much, though his tone carries a trace of sarcasm. Bia internally notes his sharp tongue, yet she decides to proceed regardless. What she truly wants to convey goes beyond simple proof of their relationship. She clarifies that her purpose here is not merely to confirm whether they are related. She has come to treat him. She declares that she will cure his illness, and in return, she proposes a contract he is to become her guardian and offer his support. In her mind, it is an exceptional bargain. Treatment from the continent's top physician, entirely interest-free, with no cost attached. To reinforce her claim, she draws out her water, demonstrating her abilities as proof that she is not lying about being a physician. He lets out a quiet scoff, amused by her display, noting that she even uses abilities. Then, leaning slightly closer, he challenges her if that is the case, she should diagnose him. The request catches her off guard for a brief moment. He confirms it again. She accepts. Although she had always planned to examine his condition eventually, she had not expected him to agree so easily. Still, this works in her favor. Bia begins her diagnosis. She has experience treating illnesses related to memory, but this situation is different. His condition feels unfamiliar, something beyond the cases she has encountered before. When she treated her uncle and great-uncle, the necessary ingredients and formulas had appeared clearly in her mind, almost instinctively guiding her. This time, however, there is nothing.